Hey everyone, welcome to part 2 of Indoctrination. I know, finally. If you haven't seen part 1 that I did a while ago, you can find it down in the links below. In the last video, we looked at some of the definitions of indoctrination, as well as education and socialization, and how, like everything these days, they can also be understood as on a spectrum. However, unlike education, indoctrination in its extreme has a power dynamic, where rules, customs, and norms, as well as ideologies and beliefs, are applied to the group through the use of force or manipulation. The key feature of indoctrination is that criticism and questioning is forbidden and is usually punished with extreme consequences. In this video, I'm going to focus on the process of indoctrination, or methods. How does one get indoctrinated? How do you indoctrinate someone? Indoctrination seems to be commonly associated with two things, religion and cults, and the two seem to be very much related. At its most basic, a cult is simply defined as a small, unestablished, non-mainstream religious group that typically revolves around a single leader. The American Heritage Dictionary defines cult as a religion or religious sect generally considered to be extremist or false, with followers often living in an unconventional manner under the guidance of an authoritarian, charismatic leader. A more simple definition that is also provided is a system or community of religious worship and ritual. Now, although most definitions of cults seem to include religious belief as part of the description, it's important to note that it's not the only requirement and can be considered as misplaced or excessive admiration for a particular person or thing. Looking at a more recent description via the not-so-credible and yet mostly accurate source of Wikipedia, the term cult usually refers to a social group defined by not only religious or spiritual worship, but also philosophical beliefs or common interests in a particular personality, object, or goal. Other sources also note that the meaning of cults can evolve over time and can refer to social groups characterized by a great devotion to a person, idea, object, movement, or work, such as a film or a book. Cults described as destructive or totalist cults represent the most extreme cases of indoctrination and are said to achieve this by exploiting members' vulnerability in order to gain complete control over them. HowStuffWorks.com nicely outlines how cults are notorious for their indoctrination methods, primarily through what they describe as the use of mind control and the systematic breakdown of a person's sense of self, which is accomplished through the process of thought reform. Thought reform is defined as the systematic alteration of a person's mode of thinking and a process of individual political indoctrination. How Stuff Works uses thought reform as a general term for any type of manipulative technique used to get people to do something they wouldn't otherwise do. So this also includes brainwashing techniques or techniques used in prisoner interrogations. Anything that is aimed at changing a person's thought process.
Just a nice, warm, happy time. Happy, happy, happy. Ha 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 ha.
Deception is one of the tools used in thought reform. Cults will lie to new recruits or members about the real expectations and activities of the group, and they may hide any signs of illegal, immoral, or controlling practices until the recruit has been fully immersed into the group. Cult leaders may also use states of altered consciousness, either through using drugs, but also sometimes through the use of activities like meditation, chanting, or hypnosis, any activity that might increase vulnerability to suggestion. Another way that cults like to indoctrinate using thought reform is through isolation techniques. Cults will cut off members from the outside world and even from each other. This is to produce intense introspection, confusion, loss of perspective, and a distorted sense of reality. They also typically instill the belief in their members that outsiders or non-cult members are not only wrong, but they are dangerous and a threat. They keep their members isolated from the outside world so that there's little chance of a reality check or any validation of concerns that they might have regarding the group. Another isolation tactic that cults use is keeping their new recruits from talking to other new recruits, and purposely situate them with long-term committed members to regularly communicate with over a period of time. Over time, the members of the cult become the only person's social contact and feedback mechanism, essentially creating an echo chamber. Another method of indoctrination used by cults is called induced dependency. Cults demand absolute and unquestioning devotion, loyalty, and submission. There are many ways to accomplish this. They furthermore induce feelings of worthlessness, while the sense of self is systematically destroyed, often by controlling every minute of a member's waking time, so that there is no free time to think or analyze. This is done by telling members what to eat, what to wear, how to feed their children, when to sleep, anything that will remove the individual from any type of decision making in their own life. Induced dependency can also take the form of depriving members of adequate sustenance or sleep so that their minds become muddled and vulnerable to suggestion. Additionally, any special talent or uniqueness that an individual may have is criticized and devalued, as well as any sense of self or self-worth. Moreover, questions and doubts are systematically turned around so that the doubter feels wrong, worthless, and evil for questioning, and the member is only loved again when he renounces these doubts and submits to the will of the group. In other words, evil is associated with independence and critical thinking, and unquestionable submission is reinforced with feelings of warmth and love.
Rock.
Wrong.
That is
Finally, to induce dependency, cults may use inside language that only members of the group will fully understand.
Thick Daddy Salvia, your host, and today we're going to learn all about mansplaining.
Your shit test.
What's a shit test?
Because I've lived.
What's next? Handling manterrupting. This is Women Try Manspreading for a Week by BuzzFeed. Oh, well, manspreading's not real. That's just bullshit.
Once full dependence is established, cults entice feelings of dread in their members, where, for example, the member must retain the leader's good favor, or else his or her life will fall apart. The leader may punish doubts, insubordination, assertiveness, or any remaining ties to the outside world, with extensive criticism, guilt, alienation, and even with physical or emotional trauma. Access to necessities often depends on keeping the leader's favor. In other words, the member must behave, or you may not be allowed food, water, social interaction, or protection from the outside world. The cult also instills the belief that only group members are saved, so if you're thinking about leaving, you will face eternal damnation. Some people may be more susceptible to cults than others. The target audience is usually already isolated, vulnerable individuals who may be struggling.
And part of that, I believe, is because we all are looking for a place to fit into the world. We're looking for love, we're looking for acceptance, and Jim Jones provided that.
A person is more likely to be successfully recruited into a cult if they are dependent or have an intense desire to belong, unassertive and gullible, have a low tolerance for uncertainty, have feelings of disillusionment with the status quo, such as feelings of marginalization within one's own culture and the desire to see some sort of culture change. If they are also naively idealistic or have the desire for spiritual meaning or a higher purpose in their life.
So here's some context about me. I used to be Mormon, pretty intensely so. When I was 12 years old, there were adults telling me that my spiritual destiny is to be perpetually pregnant. Cute, right?
However, one common feature of cult recruits is heightened stress. According to How Stuff Works, there is research that indicates that a majority of people who ended up joining a cult were recruited during a particularly stressful period, which could be related to adolescence, leaving home for the first time, a bad breakup, losing a job, or the death of a loved one.
But Leah's Scientology story started, she says, when her mom, Vicky, fresh off a divorce, threw herself into the religion founded by science fiction writer L. Ron Hubbard.
Famous cults of the past include Jonestown, Jamestown, and Charlie Manson's cult, among others, and Loki and I may discuss some of these in another video. However, I don't think we have to go to the extremes. I think we can see some of these behavioral patterns within social circles that we interact in daily. Now, if you guys have seen my videos on groupthink and cognitive dissonance, I hope you guys see that these things are dynamic and play into each other and against each other all the time. Groupthink can definitely be a symptom of indoctrination, and to be indoctrinated may require some cognitive dissonance. But the most important thing to remember is that under certain circumstances, we all have and will continue to be susceptible to these things.
Started as an effort by a charismatic preacher to build a new society, but it ended, of course, with the tragic deaths of more than 900 people.
Thanks for watching. If you have any suggestions of definitions you'd like me to cover, please put them down in the comments below. And remember to like, share, and subscribe. See you guys all next time.